So how exactly does this all work? Well, probably the simplest way is to do what we call a self-defeating test. And a self-defeating test is basically this idea that he asks, can I do this thing if everybody else does it? If everybody can do it and I still accomplish my goal of doing it, then it's okay. Then it can be universalizable. For example, if I can steal ketchup from the store, never pay for it, and everybody does it, would it be possible to steal ketchup and work? I don't know. But my guess is that eventually the ketchup companies would go out of business or the store would quit selling ketchup. But if everybody could do it, then it would be fine. And so, for example, stealing is a case where it only works if you're the exception to the rule. If everybody else does what they're supposed to do, and you are able to steal, then it's not a good thing. And so he's basically saying, if everybody goes out and does it, can I still accomplish my goal by doing it? And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't do it. If your answer is yes, then you can still accomplish the goal and it's okay. The idea here is like lying, for example. The idea here is that within the concept of lying, there is a goal of deceiving. And he asks the question of, can you deceive people by lying if everybody lies? If nobody ever tells the truth, everybody always lies, would you deceive anybody? And the answer is no, you wouldn't deceive anybody. You only deceive people by lying if you are an exception. If most people tell the truth, then you can lie and actually accomplish your goal of deceiving. But if everybody goes out and lies, you can't really achieve deception because nobody's going to believe you in the first place. As an example of this, I don't know that I see this as much, but when I first started teaching, it seemed like, and maybe it's just because I've just sort of gotten keen to the whole idea and just sort of created rules that don't accept it. But it used to be like you'd always hear students who'd say like you'd have teachers who'd be like, yeah, I've had my fourth grandparent die this semester or something. Your grandparents are easy people to kill off to get excuses for why your project's late. And maybe it's the case that teachers just are too lenient nowadays. That might very well be. But used to be people would make up these elaborate excuses like my grandparents died in order to get out of things. And the case is that when students would tell you their grandparents died, you'd always be a little bit hesitant of it. Like, did your grandparent really die? I don't know if this is even possible. And and so there would be a little bit of doubt about it. And the reason is because it became it was somewhat of a common lie, I suppose, that people would do it. I don't know if it was a common lie, but it was at least it happened enough that people were saying this that it became almost unbelievable. And the idea here is if you tell your professor that you had a grandparent who died, the idea is that they may not believe you because of the fact that they've had so many people tell them that, and they've had them lie to them. And so your lie only works if you're an exception, not if it's a rule that people lie about this. If your boss comes to you and says, "Did you finish the report?" and you say yes when you didn't, and you lie, but everybody always lies and tell to the boss, then the boss isn't going to believe you. They're going to want verification. But if everybody generally tells the truth, if you generally tell the truth, then the boss is going to believe you. They will be deceived. It only doesn't work if it only works if you're an exception, not if you're a rule. And so Kant says if everybody does it, and that's the only way it works, then it's not a good rule to follow. You need a rule that everybody can do, and it still accomplish its goal. The idea here, like one of the things he says like borrowed goods, returning borrowed goods. He says, can you keep something and not return? Like, for example, returning borrowed goods, but let's say borrowing money. If everybody came and said, hey, can I borrow $1, but they never returned the money, well, $1 may not stop you, but if everybody did it where they say, can I borrow $1, and they never actually return the $1, then you would find that nobody would loan anybody money. Why? Because they're never getting their money back, right? But if people borrow money and they actually return it as promised, then you'd be willing to keep loaning it. It only works to say you'll borrow money and not return it is if you are an exception to that, not if it is the rule. And so what Kant is doing with the self-defeating test is he's essentially, or I don't know if he's really creating the self-defeating test, but the self-defeating test is essentially asking is if everybody does what I'm doing, can I still accomplish my goal? Can I still get people to loan me stuff if I don't return it? Well, if everybody goes out and borrows stuff and doesn't return it, is anybody going to loan stuff? No, because they'll never get their stuff back. But if everybody steals, are they going to get no? Because because there's not going to be any business to keep it. And so these things only work when they are exceptions, not when they're universal. And so what Kant is looking for is things that can be done universally. And if they can be done universally, then he says they're okay.